HazMat 17, confirmed residential structure fire.
2 vehicles on fire in the garage. One is an EV. We're starting hazmat.
Perimeter is complete on the first floor. No extension, light smoke.
We do have a red in the garage. Engine compartment is smoking.
At 7:40 a.m. on Wednesday, January 10th, South Metro received a 911 call from a resident on South Mobile Street in Centennial reporting their garage on fire. Working smoke alarms in their house alerted them to the situation, and they saw that their electric vehicle in the garage was on fire. Upon arrival of Arapahoe County Sheriff deputies and South Metro firefighters, they observed a large volume of fire and smoke coming from the garage. An initial search of the home thankfully revealed that there was no one else inside the house, and thankfully the people who were inside safely evacuated without injuries. Once the fire was controlled, our firefighters determined that the lithium-ion battery pack inside the vehicle was still burning. That poses a great hazard and a great risk to everything around it, not only because of the risk of the fire spreading, but because the smoke that's coming off of the vehicle is very toxic. Once firefighters knew that an electric vehicle was involved, the hazardous materials team responded to the scene. Those apparatus are equipped with a specialized electric vehicle fire blanket, which is used to smother the fire. When the blankets arrived on scene, a South Metro Fire Rescue pickup truck was used to pull the burning electric vehicle out of the garage and onto the driveway where it was safer and there was less of a risk of the house catching on fire as well. Under the protection of a charged hose line, our firefighters in their full protective equipment and respiratory safety equipment applied that blanket.
Hey, this is a Jaguar.
An electric vehicle blanket is carried on each of our hazardous materials units. There's one that's stationed in Cherry Hills Village, one in Highlands Ranch. So geographically, they can reach across our fire district in a very quick manner. Those blankets cost anywhere between $3,000 and $5,000, and the one that we are using here at South Metro weighs 62 pounds. So it's a very heavy blanket. It takes at least 4 personnel to put it on the vehicle. They're using respiratory protection while they're doing that so that they're staying safe and making sure that their airways are protected from that toxin. And the blanket itself is really just being used to suppress the ability for oxygen to get to the fire so that the fire cannot free burn. Once the blanket is applied, the scene is relatively safe, and at that point our responders can take the time that they need to make sure that everything inside of the house is okay, that there was no fire extension, and then work on removing those vehicles. 2 blankets were used at this incident really out of an abundance of caution. Fire investigators determined that the red vehicle that you see in the video is where the fire originated, and that is an electric vehicle. The second vehicle in the garage is a hybrid, meaning it does have a lithium-ion battery pack in it. Since that vehicle did sustain damage in this fire, out of an abundance of caution, our firefighters used the same protocol, covered it with the blanket, and took it to a safe location. Our biggest fear is that a fire could be smoldering undetected, and after the firefighters leave, a fire in the garage could occur again. So out of an abundance of caution, that vehicle was removed as well, and both blankets were used. Something that was used for the first time at South Metro and something new to our community members was seeing a procession involving law enforcement leading the way, with electric vehicles on a tow truck covered in this blanket and somewhat smoking as they drove down the road with a fire department escort. The fire truck escorted those tow trucks to make sure that if there was a mishap with the blanket and a fire occurred on the roadway, they would be able to suppress that fire and call additional resources as needed. Thankfully, this plan worked as we thought it would, and the tow trucks got to the salvage yard safely without incident, and that's exactly what we trained for. Once the vehicles are at the salvage yard, they remain underneath that electric fire blanket, which is limiting the oxygen flow to the battery, which is still smoldering. The idea is that it's preventing a fire from spreading and it's preventing open burning, and eventually that battery pack will cool down to the point that the fire will just be extinguished. Some people might be wondering why we don't just use water on that like a normal vehicle fire, a combustion engine fire, and it's because it's ineffective. It's very difficult to get the water where it needs to go into the battery pack, and when those lithium-ion batteries are in a thermal runaway situation, it can take tens of thousands of gallons of water to extinguish them. Even in that case, if it does extinguish them, now we've created a bigger hazardous materials incident with the runoff water. There's also a risk that even after water has been applied and successfully suppressed the fire in that moment, that those batteries will reignite later. So the safest thing that we can possibly do, take the vehicle away from anything that could possibly burn and where it could hurt someone, and leave it under that blanket until it's cool enough and the fire is 100% out. South Metro knew that we needed to take a different approach to these fires so that we could be more effective. All firefighters at South Metro went through a very robust training program on how to respond to lithium-ion battery fires, how to identify those, and know that our hazardous materials response team will respond as well. Those individuals are the subject matter experts at South Metro who are on duty every day. They carry these blankets with them so that they are prepared to come in and utilize those when the worst happens. Last year, South Metro Fire Rescue purchased this version of the electric vehicle fire blanket and began training on it because we saw this emerging hazard that has evolved in the country, not only with electric vehicles, but electric mobility devices that have lithium-ion batteries, and then certainly all of the small devices that many of us are carrying in our pockets or use in our homes. So realizing that threat and seeing how other fire departments were having these challenges where water wasn't being effective to extinguish the fires, South Metro knew that we needed to take a different approach to these fires so that we could be more effective. We certainly don't want to create undue panic when we're presenting that an electric vehicle fire occurred, and it obviously looks very scary. What we recommend is always following the manufacturer-specific instructions on how to store the devices, the batteries, the vehicles, and how to charge them appropriately using only manufacturer-approved charging cables. We also recommend that people stay home when they are charging those devices. So we don't want someone to plug a lithium-ion battery into the charger and then leave, and there's nobody there to detect a problem if a problem occurs. The other thing we want people to know is not to block one of their exit paths out of the home with an electric device that's charging. What we've seen in other areas of the country are electric scooters or mobility devices that are placed in a hallway, and if a fire occurs while it's charging, it becomes impassable for a person to move past that and safely exit out of their home. So what we really encourage people to do is always be present, only be charging it to manufacturer specifications, and make sure that the exit paths are not blocked. And of course, not only just with electric vehicle fires, lithium-ion battery fires, but residential fires are the most common fires that South Metro respond to. And we encourage our community members to make sure when they watch this video, the next thing they should do is check and make sure that they have working smoke alarms in their home.